Take a deep breath with me. Before speaking, before writing, before reacting, there is a secret ground where the quality of your day is decided. That invisible second in which anger is born like a spark. It is not yet a fire, not yet a shout. It is a fleeting thought, an interpretation, a sensation that ignites in the chest and pushes the tongue to run faster than reason. This episode is an invitation to enter that second, to recognize it, to govern it, and to transform it. Not to turn you into stone, but to turn your fire into light. Because anger is not an external monster, it is raw energy waiting for direction. If you give it dominion, it drags you. If you give it form, it serves you. Today, we will learn how to give it form. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his nightly notes that we must see things as they are and remember that it is not what happens that harms us, but our opinion about what happens. Epictetus, with his direct style, taught that nothing external can rob you of peace without your consent. You decide whether to grant entry or to keep the threshold guarded. Seneca, who reflected deeply on anger, warned that no passion is quicker to take command, and that its most immediate remedy is to delay the impulse, to gain time so that reason can return to the command post. These three voices are not museum pieces. They are tools. We will use them to train a response more dignified than an outburst and more effective than resentful silence. Most of us did not learn to see anger at its start. We notice too late, when the tone has already risen, when the jaw tightens, when the heart races and the conversation has turned into a battlefield. That is why today we will train the prior moment, the instant in which you can choose another path. We will do it with 10 simple and profound keys. Each one is designed for beginners and, at the same time, for those who have tried many methods without finding something sustainable. We will practice small, repeatable steps, adapted to real life, at home, at work, on the street, and on the screen. There will be no magic recipes. There will be method, patience, and one humble promise. If you govern 1 second, you change the course of the conversation, and sometimes of your whole day. Before entering the keys, let's clarify 3 images that will accompany us. First, anger as a spark. We do not fear fire, we learn to care for it so that it warms and does not destroy. Second, consent. If an offense knocks at your door, you are not obliged to open. You can look through the peephole, recognize it, and decide what to do with it. Third, silence as a sheathed sword. It is not cowardice, it is self-mastery. Knowing that you can respond, but choosing the moment and the form. These images are not pretty metaphors, they are practical reminders we will activate when the pulse rises. We will also speak of ancient words with today's language. When we say, withdraw your consent, it means, do not believe immediately the story your mind whispers when you feel hurt. When hegemonikon appears, do not be afraid. It is the name the Stoics gave to your inner governing center, that quiet room where you decide which thoughts to feed, which words to use, and which gestures to sustain. When you hear memento mori, do not take it as a theatrical blow, but as an antidote against disproportion. Remembering that life is brief helps you not to burn your day on something unworthy of your whole soul. You may wonder if controlling anger will make you cold. Number. The goal is not to extinguish your fire, but to direct it. Righteous indignation exists. Injustice must be named. Boundaries must be set with firmness. But the difference between justice and outburst is in the method. The outburst strikes to relieve itself. Justice acts to correct. The outburst feeds on fantasies. Justice rests on facts, seeks the possible good, and accepts its pace. Controlling anger is not swallowing everything. It is choosing the dose, the tone, and the moment that honor your dignity and protect your relationships. Picture a scene from your recent life. Someone speaks to you with disdain. You feel the heat rising. The body urges you to reply harshly, to return the offense with interest. There, right there, we will intervene. First, by recognizing the spark. Then, by withdrawing consent from the story that screams, "They are mistreating me on purpose." After that, by choosing a brief silence that gives you back command. Finally, by responding from the dignity that safeguards your words and your reputation. It will not always be perfect. There will be days you arrive late, but each attempt leaves a mark, a little more space between impulse and action. Another example, you are at work. A decision seems unjust. Anger appears disguised as total clarity. You feel you see everything with sharpness and that the world owes you an immediate answer. Remember, anger confuses speed with truth. The practice will be to ask for facts, verify data, inquire about criteria, and propose alternatives. Maybe the decision will still not please you, but you will have acted in a way that preserves your character. Marcus Aurelius noted that the best defense is to be. Here to be means to speak with sobriety and to choose the possible good, even if pride demands a duel. This episode does not ask you to change your skin. It asks you to train a second. 1 second to breathe, 1 to see the fact without adornment, 1 to ask yourself what your dignity loses if you explode, 1 to remember that death exists and that it is not worth burning your day in a flame that does not illuminate. That small second, repeated many times, changes the music of a life. In the end, controlling anger before speaking is not repressing yourself. It is deciding with clarity what you want to build with your voice. Your voice can be a blind hammer or a precise tool. Today, we will practice the second. I suggest you listen to these keys with a pen in hand. Write down the phrase that serves you. Save 2 breaths to practice. Underline 1 scene where you want to rehearse another ending. If this is new to you, welcome. If you have been trying for some time, welcome too. You need no experience to start today. You need will, honesty, and gentle patience with yourself. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, wrote to remind himself of what he knew and forgot. You and I will do the same. Return, repeat, adjust, be grateful for what works, and calmly correct what does not. And now, let's enter. 10 keys to controlling anger before speaking. 10 ways to hold the helm when the wave rises. 10 exercises to turn the spark into a teacher and not into a master. Come with me. Let's practice together a possible, concrete, everyday freedom, governing what we say when the blood rises. If today you recover 1 second, you will have gained ground. If tomorrow you add another, you will be building a life with fewer fires and more clarity. The rest will come with time, as calm follows the storm, silent, steady, enough. Let us continue with calm and courage. Before we begin, I want you to declare your commitment by leaving in the comments. From today on, I do not give my voice to anger. That phrase will be a reminder that you are here to train temperance, to not allow an impulse to govern what your reason can decide. This is the moment to prove to yourself that your strength is not in shouting, but in choosing clearly when to speak and when to remain silent. Without further preamble, let's begin. First Stoic key: catch the spark before it becomes a fire. Think of anger as a spark that suddenly jumps onto the iron of your day. It is small, but if it falls on dry leaves, it ignites. Catching the spark means learning to notice the first heat, the first thought that says, "I was disrespected. This is intolerable." That's no way to speak. That thought is not a verdict, it is a proposal. Epictetus explained it simply: impressions arrive, but it is we who give or deny assent. Catching the spark is delaying that assent long enough to look again, not to deny reality, but to see it more clearly. The body usually warns before the mind. The jaw tightens, the back straightens, the chest rises, heat appears in the face, the eyes search for a target. That physical map is your alarm. When you hear it, breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, 2 or 3 times more slowly than usual. Slowing down the body deactivates autopilot. Seneca recommended not giving credit to the first impulse and postponing the reaction because anger loves shortcuts. Your new habit will be the opposite. Lengthen the path just enough for reason to arrive. Marcus Aurelius noted that many offenses disappear if you observe them from above. Imagine the scene for a moment as if you were a silent witness, two human beings on a hard day, each with their story, crossing words. That shift in perspective shrinks the flame. If it still burns, ask yourself about the facts. What exactly was said? What did you do? What lies outside your control? Asking about facts is a bucket of water over the imagination that exaggerates. Imagination without reins turns a look into an insult and a mistake into betrayal. Your task is to put on the reins. For beginners, I propose a three-step technique. 1. Name the spark in silence. I am feeling anger. Naming organizes. 2. Describe the fact in a short sentence. I was cut off. 3. Decide on one minimal and dignified action. I will ask for a turn to speak when they finish. That triad returns government to you without spectacle. Avoid moralizing the other in the heat of the moment. Avoid diagnosing their intentions. Epictetus would insist you judge what depends on you, your attitude, your tone, your next phrase. The rest is not in your hands. The hardest place to catch the spark is the screen. There the offense arrives silently, with words that bear no face, and your mind fills the gaps with shadows. Before replying, get up. Literally, get up from the chair, open a window, look at a real object, touch cold water. Your nervous system needs a signal that you are not in danger. Only then decide if you will respond, ask, or let it pass. Marcus Aurelius recommended acting with intention, not by drift. That counts double in the digital realm, where drift is culture. If someone provokes you, choose to read the provocation as an exercise. Here is my practice for today. The phrase changes your stance from victim to apprentice. It is not resignation, it is training. A boxer does not hate the bag, he uses it. The person who provokes you unknowingly lends you a weight to strengthen your temperance. Thanking inwardly is not approving what is unjust. It is squeezing out the possible benefit. Thinking this way, you will see that you can let pass 10 small sparks that once set your morning ablaze. Another resource, the honest question. Instead of stating you disrespected me, try, when you interrupt me I feel overlooked. Can we let each other finish our ideas? The question lowers the temperature and opens a door to correction. Seneca said that anger feeds on its own noise and that the remedy is a sober tone. The sober tone is not weak, it is exact, and the exact cures more than the noisy. There will be times when the spark is a sign of something you do need to address. Catching the spark does not mean swallowing it. It means deciding whether it is better to speak now or later, here or in private, loudly or softly, once or in writing. Temperance does not cancel firmness. It perfects it. If today you choose to remain silent so as not to derail the meeting, commit to yourself to revisit the issue methodically. Write down your point, request a meeting, define an objective. Strategic postponement is not cowardice, it is temporal precision. Practice a brief ritual before responding. Check the placement of your feet, the softness of your tongue, the height of your shoulders. Repeat quietly 3 anchor words: facts, tone, purpose. Facts so as not to invent, tone so as not to wound, purpose to remember what you want to achieve with what you will say. If you do this 20 times, your body will begin to offer you those words without your needing to search for them. The habit will come to meet you. When you fail, celebrate that you saw the spark late, but you saw it. Put out whatever fire you can and write 2 lines, what ignited it, what you will do next time, what phrase would have served you. This micro-inventory is a patient trainer. Marcus Aurelius thanked himself for correcting in time. You can practice the same, correct without drama, with constancy. And if the damage was real, Repair promptly, ask forgiveness clearly and without theatre, and return to your work. At the end of the day, the first key is applied humility. The humility to admit that the impulse does not know how to drive, that the first thought is not law, that the spark does not have to become a fire. When you walk with that humility, your strength does not diminish, it concentrates. You cease to be a hostage to any friction and begin to be master of your second. That second, repeated, gives you back life in portions of clarity. And with clarity, your voice regains its weight and its purpose. An image to close this key. Think of a blacksmith working at the anvil. Each spark that flies into the air is a sign of friction, not of defeat. The master does not rush to smother each spark in fear. He adjusts the blow, changes the force, alters the angle, tries again. So it is with your spirit. Do not judge yourself for feeling the first heat. Judge yourself by what you do with it. If today you catch one spark in time, you have won. If tomorrow you catch two, even better. We are not looking for impossible purity, we are looking for visible progress. Seneca, in his treatise on anger, insisted that the most effective medicine is the one taken daily in small doses. This key is that medicine. Repeatable, sober, humble, effective. And if your environment keeps striking sparks, change what you can. Adjust schedules, reduce stimuli, order your space. Put distance between yourself and people who enjoy starting fires. Not out of superiority, but out of hygiene of the soul. Epictetus would put it this way: guard your choice as you would guard your breath. Without it, there is no inner life. With it, even in difficult environments, you can sustain your spirit without burning. Catching the spark is your first victory of the day, the prelude to better decisions. Practice it with patience, and you will see how, little by little, your biography fills with scenes that once ended badly and now end with respect. Keep this phrase: not every heat is a fire. Breathe, look, decide with sobriety. Second Stoic key: withdraw your consent. When someone hurts you, the first thing that happens does not occur in the world, it happens inside. An image appears, a sharp phrase, an interpretation that turns the event into a personal offense. Epictetus taught that there, exactly there, we have a decisive freedom. We can grant or deny consent. Withdrawing consent is not playing dumb, nor justifying the unjust. It is refusing to blindly believe the first story your mind fabricates. It is telling the impulse, wait, I want to look again. Then the offense, which seemed inevitable, loses fuel. Without your permission, it dies at the door. How is it practiced? With a brief sequence. The impression arrives: I was disrespected. Before assenting, ask a question: what actually happened in facts? Describe as if you were an impartial witness, then look for alternatives. Could there be another explanation? Is it possible it wasn't personal? Do I have all the data? That small filter disarms absolutism. Seneca warned that anger rushes toward the worst. Your task is to put on the brakes. A useful phrase: I don't know yet. Repeat inwardly: I don't know yet. Open space to investigate. Marcus Aurelius proposed cutting things down to the bone, remove rhetorical ornaments, clean off the labels, look at the matter. If someone arrived late, that is what you know. They arrived late. The rest is a story. Is there a pattern? Was there bad faith? Does it affect you in a way that requires a boundary? Sober questions, proportional answers. When you withdraw consent from exaggeration, reality becomes manageable. And what is manageable does not humiliate, it can be worked on. A daily example: someone replies sharply in a message. Your first reading says, they despise me. Withdraw consent. Try, they may be tired, they may be in a hurry, they may not know how their words sound. Ask for clarity. Can we talk it through on a call? I want to make sure I understood you. It is not naivety, it is method. If there was real contempt behind it, it will show with data. If not, you will have avoided a war over shadows. Epictetus insisted that we are not judges of another's interior, we are judges of our own choices. Choosing to investigate before condemning is an act of justice toward yourself and toward the other. Withdrawing consent also protects your memory. The angry mind rewrites history to sustain indignation. Suddenly everything was intolerable always, and everyone is guilty. Keeping facts in writing, date, words, agreements, cools the narrative. Seneca recommended keeping accounts of the day to educate life. That habit will allow you to correct with arguments, not with outbursts. You will gain authority and lose reasons to exaggerate. There are offenses that demand a firm response. Withdrawing consent is not giving up your rights, it is preparing a just response. First you see, then you judge, finally you act. In that sequence, your no will have a different texture. It will not be a passionate explosion, it will be a clear boundary. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best defense is to be. To be here is to protect your inner citadel, so you speak from it, not from the marketplace. When the word is born from the center, it sounds different. It does not shout to exist. It affirms to bring order. At home, choose agreements that make this exercise easier. Keywords to pause when the tone rises, cool down windows, commitments to return to the topic calmly. Withdrawing consent from the darkest reading requires good complicity. If both know they will not be judged in the heat of the moment, the conversation will not be a race of accusations. It will be a workshop, and in the workshop you learn. Epictetus would call this the education of assent, teaching the mind not to believe the first thing just because. In the digital realm, the temptation to consent is fierce. Plain text erases nuances, and the imagination fills them with poison. Establish rules. Never reply to an important message in the first 5 minutes of anger. Ask for voice or video for sensitive matters. Keep drafts. The draft is your ally. It allows you to see what you were about to say, withdraw consent from the unfair phrase, and choose another that achieves your purpose without breaking the bond. Marcus Aurelius advised not to add to the fact something that makes it heavier. The draft lightens your load. Withdrawing consent does not erase true pain. It allows you to attend to it with measure. If someone crosses a boundary, say so. If you must step away, do it. But do not also give away your peace to every shadow. You have the right to investigate, to ask, to reframe. Your dignity does not depend on winning every argument. It depends on not lying to yourself about what happened. Passionate lies create cardboard heroes. Sober truth builds character. To train, write 3 replacement phrases. When "they hate me" arises, switch it to "I don't have enough data." When "they always do this" appears, switch to "it happened today, I'll see if it's a pattern." When you hear "they want to humiliate me," switch to "I'll see if it's intention or clumsiness." It is not self-deception, it is lens cleaning. You will see better and decide better. Over time, this exercise will make your mind ask for evidence before handing down sentences. That day, you will have gained a freedom that does not depend on the goodwill of the world. It depends on your care in consenting. I end this key with a simple image. Imagine your judgment as the door of a house. Many voices knock. Some bring help, others bring noise. Your hand is on the latch. Withdrawing consent is looking through the peephole, asking who it is, and deciding whether to open. When you open only to those who belong, your house remains standing. When you open to anyone out of impulse, your house falls into disorder. Today, your task is to be the attentive doorkeeper of your door. That is applied philosophy, guarding your entrance to guard your peace. If you are torn between consenting or not, use time as your ally. Take a glass of water, walk to the door, look at the sky for 3 breaths. That small interval dissolves misunderstandings that once seemed like mountains. Not always, many times. And in the times it doesn't, you will have arrived with a more whole presence. A whole presence understands better, asks better, negotiates better. Seneca would say that the tempered spirit sees paths that the inflamed spirit does not perceive. In that difference lies the health of your bonds and of your word. You can also ask help from someone sensible, not to build a side, but to test your reading. Tell the facts, listen to questions, accept objections. If your friend shows you an angle you didn't see, be grateful. If they confirm there is real offense, act with more confidence and without theater. Epictetus would celebrate that docility to correction. One who loves the truth, loves to be rectified. Withdrawing consent from your first version when a better one appears is a sign of strength, not weakness. In the end, withdrawing consent is a vote of confidence in your reason. Over time, you will see that you no longer need the other to change for your day to change. You change, you configure your interpretations better, and that change is sovereign. It goes with you anywhere, before any character, in any climate. There will be errors, yes, but they will be less serious and easier to repair. You will be less reactive and more in command of yourself. And your voice, when it comes, will come with a calm that weighs more than a shout. Keep this phrase in your notebook. First I see, then I judge. Write it where you look daily. It will save you from useless wars and allow you to fight just battles. That is the promise of this key, that your consent not be a reflex but a conscious choice that keeps you free. Third Stoic key, make silence your first response. Silence is not cowardice when it is born from temperance. It is a sheathed sword. It says you have strength, but you choose when and how to use it. In the first blow of anger, silence is an immediate cure, because it returns command of the body and the tongue to you. The first remedy against anger is to defer it, wrote Seneca. To defer it is not to swallow, it is to hold back the word for a few minutes, so reason can return to the center. Marcus Aurelius added that we should speak only when it is necessary and with sobriety. That combination, necessity and sobriety, is the art of keeping silent at the right time to respond better. Think of silence as a gentle brake. It does not stop the carriage completely. It reduces speed to take the curve. 3 breaths, a sip of water, a glance out the window, an anchor phrase repeated inwardly, facts, tone, purpose. That brake cuts the inertia of the impulse and lets you choose. Silence gives you time to choose, and choosing is the heart of your freedom. Epictetus insisted on training that moment. Do not assent immediately. Do not speak immediately. Do not strike immediately. If you wait a little, you will see better the form that best suits you. Silence is not absence, it is presence without noise. You are there, watching, listening, ordering. That is why it feels so good in difficult conversations. When the other raises their tone, your silence lowers the foam, not as punishment, but as foundation. You write, "I'm listening, please finish," and you save your reply for later. The result is often surprising. The other hears themselves, realizes, moderates. Not always, but many times. And when not, your silence allows you to move from the ring to method, asking for facts, setting limits, deciding whether it is right to continue or pause. For silence to work as a first resource, you need to make an agreement with yourself. I propose a pact. In every tense conversation, hold 45 seconds before responding. Use a stopwatch if you must. It is an eternity for the impulse and a gift for your judgment. In that time, review 3 things: what was said in facts, what you want to achieve, and what minimal phrase could serve. Then speak. The minimal phrase has power because it does not ignite and it opens options. Give me a minute, please. I heard you. Let me think. I want to respond well. I'll come back this evening. Each of these sentences is a bridge to a more just conversation. In the digital world, silence is called draft. Write the response your impulse dictates and do not send it. Leave the draft open. Stand up, wash a dish, breathe at the door, return. Replace adjectives with facts. Remove irony. Gather accusations. Ask instead. Version 2 is usually better. Version 3, fairer. Sometimes the best version is none. No reply is needed anymore. Marcus Aurelius asked us not to add weight to the fact with aggressive interpretations. The light draft fulfills that mandate. It leaves it without extra bricks. There are silences that are also a form of love. If someone close to you is hurt and speaks from pain, your first response may be to simply be there, not explain. Presence before advice. Epictetus advised distinguishing what depends on you. It does not depend on you to repair another's heart immediately. What does depend is to accompany without harming. Welcoming silence with an open hand and a clean gaze is worth more than 100 well-meaning but clumsy phrases. Later, when the tide recedes, you can offer your sober word. Silence does not deny the boundary. On the contrary, it prepares it. Keeping quiet at the beginning lets you say with precision what will be needed afterward. I don't accept this tone. Let's talk tomorrow. I'm telling you no, and here is why. This wasn't right. I suggest we correct it this way. These kinds of sentences are born from a pause. The pause clears away the poison of pride and lets the right firmness come through. Seneca said that no medicine works well if the patient does not remain still. Applied to the soul, you need stillness for reason to take effect. In teams, silence as the first response creates culture. If the norm is reaction, stridency wins. If the norm is to breathe before replying, clarity wins. Propose simple rules. Don't respond in heat to complex issues. Escalate to voice what stalls in text. Keep a under-review tag for sensitive matters. The organization that deactivates shouting becomes more creative because fear falls and the mind thinks better. Marcus Aurelius would say that an ordered city honors its citizens. An ordered conversation honors those who hold it. Silence is not muteness. It is not disappearance. It is not indifference. It is a tool like the hammer or the pen. You use it to avoid breaking what you would later have to rebuild with tears and hours. If you worry about seeming weak, look at the fruits. With silence at the start, you reduce mistakes, preserve relationships, guard your name. That is not weakness, that is governance. Epictetus called this inner freedom, being able to choose what you do even when emotion screams. For those who fear silence hides injustice, a clarification, keeping quiet first is not keeping quiet always, it is keeping quiet to see better, then speak. And speak with facts, with a clear goal, with firm courtesy. If after silence you choose to denounce, your denunciation will be more credible. If you choose to withdraw, your withdrawal will be cleaner. Silence at the start removes smoke and lets you see the structure of what needs to be done. Train this habit with short exercises. Before entering a difficult conversation, write 3 sentences you will use if the tone rises. Practice breathing when you hear a word that ignites you. Rehearse staying 20 seconds with discomfort without filling the air. At first it burns, later it warms. Your nervous system learns to tolerate the wave, and your awareness learns to hold the helm. Next time, the wave will find you more steady. If you fail, don't dramatize, correct. Say, I rushed. I'll speak better in an hour. That sentence rescues bonds. People don't need perfection. They need signs that you are willing to bring order. With every attempt, silence ceases to be a heroic effort and becomes normal. Normal, in this case, is healthy. Fewer words to regret, more spaces where truth can enter. Ultimately, silence as a first response restores dignity to your voice. A word that comes after a just pause weighs more. It does not waste itself in defending the ego, it spends itself building. It does not explode, it establishes. It does not wound, it heals. When you practice it, you discover a new pleasure, finishing conversations with respect, even if there was no agreement. It is a sober pleasure, but a deep one. Seneca would call it honest joy, the kind that doesn't need spectacle to feel true. Keep this key as a promise. I will make silence my first gesture when the spark is born. That will not turn you into a statue. It will turn you into someone who owns their mouth and their day. And that ownership, gained minute by minute, is the seed of a clearer life. Practice it today, and tomorrow you will see the difference. Fourth Stoic key: remember that anger makes you a slave. There is a kind of slavery without shackles or bars, but with immediate effects on your voice, your rest, and your relationships, handing your spirit over to anger and allowing anyone, with a gesture or a phrase, to steer your day as if flipping a switch. Seneca put it bluntly: whoever becomes angry surrenders, and in surrendering you lose command. It is not that the other is powerful, it is you who hands over the helm for an instant that later costs you dearly. Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to become a puppet of visible strings. Anger is exactly that. Strings anyone can pull to throw you off center. If today you decide to cut those strings, you choose to be the master of your own step again. This slavery shows itself in small signs. You reply to a message without reading it fully, and minutes later have to apologize for your tone. You raise your voice at home over a trifle and spend the rest of the day compensating with awkward silences. At work, someone provokes you to see you explode and use it against you. You fall and get trapped in explanations. You go to bed replaying grievances as if they were tasks. You wake up fighting with someone who is not even there. Epictetus would sum it up like this: you confused what depends on you with what does not. Another's manners, traffic, or the algorithm are not in your control. What is the manner and timing of your response. That is where freedom begins. It helps to unmask the bait. What does anger promise you? Speed, instant justice, a sense of control. What does it really deliver? Costly mistakes, weakened relationships, arguments against you at the next meeting. Seneca suggested a mental exercise. When your pulse rises, imagine the immediate future of that outburst. 3 hours later, where does it leave you? Perhaps in shame, perhaps with more work, perhaps with a broken bond. If that projection doesn't appeal to you, don't pay the price. Justice is not cooked on high flame, it is cooked on controlled fire. Memento mori, remember you are mortal, not to depress you but to order your priorities. Do you really want to spend an hour of your life proving you were right about a matter that could be resolved with a sober question or a clear boundary? Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by wars and plagues, reminded himself, prefer what endures to what dazzles. In this matter, what endures is your character. Anger offers you brief glitter. Character offers direction. To choose character is to choose freedom in the long run. If you feel that you can't help it, bring the matter back to the body. When the spark ignites, lower your chin slightly, relax the tongue from the palate, drop your shoulders, and exhale longer than you inhale. This adjustment sends signals of calm to the nervous system. It doesn't fix injustices, but it gives you margin to decide. The Stoics called that margin hegemonikon, your inner room of command. You don't need to learn the word, just remember the idea. There is a place inside from which you choose. Each time you occupy it, you cut a string from the puppeteer. Freedom is not letting everything pass. It is choosing how and when to respond so as not to remain enslaved to outbursts. If something is serious, speak firmly, document, escalate. If it is not, let it die of starvation. Slavery feeds on confusing the two cases. Train a domestic criterion with 3 questions before answering. Is it truly important? Is it my responsibility? Do I have enough facts? If 2 of 3 answers are no, don't hand your voice over to anger. Save your energy for what truly depends on you and deserves your weight. In the family, the slavery of anger teaches a silent pedagogy. It teaches everyone to walk on tiptoe. The home becomes a minefield where anyone fears stepping on the wrong square. Freedom, on the other hand, teaches trust. When you put method to your fire, the house breathes differently. You can debate without trembling, correct without humiliating, apologize without theater. Seneca wryly noted that the furious seem powerful, but anyone can govern them with a push. Don't seek that apparent power. Seek the real strength of one who can restrain himself and choose better. At work, losing your temper makes you predictable. You become a button anyone can press to throw you off your objective, someone who knows you can provoke you to pull you off track or to make you say something that will later be used against you. Cut those strings with habits. Breathe before replying to difficult emails. Move thorny issues to a short meeting with minutes. Ask for facts in writing. Pause sensitive topics when the temperature rises. It isn't bureaucracy, it is protection of your judgment. Marcus Aurelius would say, "Do not add weight to facts with your own exaggeration. You may think, if I don't explode, they will walk all over me." Stoic reply, "You are confusing volume with authority. Authority comes from clarity, consistency, and the ability to hold boundaries without losing your manner. Speak clearly, briefly, with proposals. If interrupted, reclaim the word without drama and return to the point. If there is manipulation, name it precisely and cut the scene." Epictetus defended exactness of language as care of the soul. It protects you from becoming an echo of the other. Consider an image. A dog barks behind a fence. If you approach, it barks louder. If you stay at a distance, it tires. Some provocations are that dog. Approach only when the matter deserves it. Otherwise, keep your pace and carry on. The slavery of anger makes you stop at every fence. Freedom teaches you to choose streets. That small choice, repeated, makes your day livable. When you fall, and you will, don't chain yourself with theatrical guilt. Repair. If you hurt, apologize without rehearsal. "I went too far. It wasn't right. I'll do this to prevent a repeat." Seek the learning. What triggered you? What signal did you ignore? What can you adjust? Write it down. This notebook of stumbles is a map of liberation. Marcus Aurelius celebrated being able to correct himself on the spot. That is what he called progress. Progress is not never getting angry, it is taking less time to return to center. Choose symbols that remind you of your freedom just when anger calls you to be a slave. A ring you turn, a short word on your wrist, a sound you link to breathing. Memento mori fits in 4 heartbeats. Facts, tone, purpose fits in 3. They don't promise calm seas, they promise a rudder. With a rudder, even the storm is navigable. Remember this summary: no one commands your interior unless you authorize it. Anger promises power, but locks you in. Temperance looks like renunciation, but opens the door. When blood rises, ask yourself, do I want to be governed from outside or govern myself from within? The answer you choose, repeated 100 times a year, will make you either a vassal of impulse or a citizen of your own citadel. The first exhausts and isolates. The second steadies and makes you useful. That usefulness, being available for good, is the most practical freedom you can train today. 5th Stoic key: see the offender as ignorant, not as an enemy. To look at the one who hurts you and see them as ignorant, someone who doesn't know how to do better, instead of as an enemy, someone who seeks to destroy you, is not naivety, it is a strategy of lucidity. It doesn't ask you to deny the harm or excuse the injustice. It asks you to change the lens so you can act more effectively and less self-destructively. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that most people err not out of malice, but out of ignorance of what is good and bad. In practice, many hurt from exhaustion, learned clumsiness, or poorly managed fear. If you turn them immediately into absolute enemies, you make yourself part of the war, and war robs you of judgment. Imagine a highway. A driver cuts you off without signaling and nearly hits you. The quick reading, "They wanted to hurt me." The Stoic reading, "They did something dangerous. I don't know their intention. My task is to respond safely." That second reading saves your morning and perhaps your life. Epictetus insisted, don't attribute intentions if you don't know them. Judge actions, set limits, don't read souls. At the office or at home, it is the same. The interrupter may have learned to talk over others to avoid feeling invisible. The quiet one may have learned to protect themselves. To understand is not to justify. It is to intervene with more precision. Seneca proposed an uncomfortable test. When someone hurts you, ask yourself if you have ever done something similar. Almost always the answer is yes. That mirror knocks you off the pedestal and puts you back on the plane of the human. It's not to excuse the other, it's to correct with justice. Correction born of humility is more effective and less humiliating, and it prevents you from becoming what you despise. If today you choose to humiliate, tomorrow it will be harder to speak with dignity. If today you choose to explain, tomorrow you will have opened a door. Seeing ignorance rather than enmity changes your tone. If you see an enemy, you attack. If you see ignorance, you explain, ask, frame. The ancients called parrhesia speaking with frankness. Frankness doesn't need insult, it needs courage and measure. Say it clearly and briefly. Epictetus recommended not humiliating when correcting. The humiliated lift their pride and shut the door to learning. Treated with dignity, they are left with an honorable exit. A bond with exits honors both. You'll notice we're more generous with those we love. We give them alternative explanations. Strangers, we sentence immediately. Marcus Aurelius urged us to extend to the stranger the patience we offer a friend. A practical exercise. Before launching the adjective, ask yourself how you would speak if it were your brother, your dear colleague, or yourself from 5 years ago. It changes a lot. That practice doesn't erase the fault, it puts it in its size. Justice, even when applying consequences, doesn't need hatred as fuel. And if there is real malice, that exists too. The focus, ignorant, not enemy, doesn't send you into blind embrace, it sends you to strategy. If there is deliberate harm, protect yourself, document, escalate, seek help, create distance, but don't also hand your heart over to hatred. Seneca warned, anger is brief madness, hatred is its permanent residence. Don't settle there. A firm boundary doesn't need the poison of contempt. Contempt consumes you and leaves you without judgment. Act, but don't corrupt yourself. There is a terrain where this focus is immediate medicine, social media. There, strangers turn into imaginary enemies in seconds. If you decide to respond, treat the other as a teachable ignorant. Ask for sources, offer facts, draw boundaries, decide when to exit. Don't step onto the stage that rewards reaction and punishes reason. Epictetus would say, the public forum is not a place for your peace if you don't go prepared. Go with armor, clear purpose, limited time, zero insults. And if the conversation is useless, withdraw with dignity. Seeing the offender as ignorant changes you, even if the other doesn't change. You lower the inner volume, protect your health, and uphold your reputation. The day ends with less chewed-over resentment and more tasks completed. Marcus Aurelius called that enough, having done what depended on you with rectitude. It isn't triumphalism, it's calm. And when reality puts everything in its place, it will find you whole, not embittered. Prolonged bitterness turns an offense into identity. Seeing it as ignorance recovers your own identity. An intimate example, a loved one responds curtly on a hard day. Enemy reading, they don't love me anymore. Ignorance reading, they don't know how to ask for space without hurting. They are at their limit. With that reading, you choose better. You ask how to help, propose to return later, or express your impact without accusing. When you speak to me like that, it hurts. Let's pick this up when you're calmer. It won't always work. It will often. And when it doesn't, at least you won't have worsened the story or betrayed your tone. 3 tools for beginners. 1. Describe the act, don't label the person. You interrupted me 3 times carries more weight than you're disrespectful. 2. Offer a concrete alternative. I'll finish and then listen to you. 3. Choose the setting. The deepest corrections are made in private. Seneca said public reproach rarely educates, it almost always exposes. If you care about improvement, don't humiliate. If you care about humiliating, stop pretending you care about improvement. The difference shows in the results. Be careful not to confuse ignorance with impunity. They are not the same. Treating the other as ignorant doesn't remove consequences. It applies them without hatred, with proportion, and with a goal that good may grow. In a team, it may mean rotating tasks, providing training, adjusting processes, or sometimes parting ways. Do it soberly. Epictetus would recommend not mixing discipline with vengeance. Discipline orders, vengeance disorders itself. Remember also that sometimes the ignorant one is you. With luck, someone who loves you will tell you. Be grateful for that frankness. It hurts at first, but saves years of dead ends. Marcus Aurelius thanked those who showed him his blind spots. Imitating him is wise. Turn honest critics into allies of your maturity. Not all are. Learn to distinguish. When they are, don't turn them into enemies out of pride. Keep a phrase for the heated moment. Not an enemy, ignorant. I don't need hatred to set a boundary. A door opens where before there was a wall. Behind that door are better questions. What do they need to know? How can I say it without humiliating? What small gesture orders the situation? If there is no will, withdraw. If there is, teach what you can and remove what you must. Your peace doesn't depend on winning everything today. It depends on maintaining rectitude. I'll close with an image. In a crowded train, someone steps on your foot. The pain is real. You can shout, or you can touch their shoulder and say, "You're stepping on me." 9 out of 10 will apologize. The 10th will argue. Then you protect your foot and, if necessary, ask for help. In neither case did you need to turn them into an enemy to defend yourself. Defense without hatred is an art. Seeing the offender as ignorant is one of its keys. When anger rules, it isn't you speaking. It's your wound, your pride, and your fatigue deciding for you. And you know well, one misplaced word can ruin an entire day, an important bond, even your own peace. If you don't train your response, that habit becomes the master of your life. That's why subscribing isn't just a click. It's committing to real training so that the next time your blood rises, you'll be the one in control. Here you won't find empty phrases or quick fixes. Every week you'll receive Stoic practices and reminders to turn fire into clarity, impulse into decision, anger into temperance. Not subscribing means repeating the same cycle. Arguments that leave scars, silences full of resentment, sleepless nights. Subscribing means having a steady guide, a reminder that brings you back to what you can control, your words, your calm, your dignity. If you recognized yourself in those outbursts you later regret, don't ignore this opportunity. Anger isn't defeated by good intentions, it's defeated by practice and decision. This is one of them. Subscribe now, because your voice was not made to destroy, it was made to build. 6th Stoic key. Ask what your dignity loses if you explode. Before speaking with a burning mouth, ask yourself a cooling, unshaming question. What does my dignity lose if I explode? It is not rhetoric, it is an emergency brake. Dignity is the weight of your word, the trust of others in you, and your trust in yourself. Every shout thins it, every irony wounds it, every outburst pawns it at high interest. Seneca advised imagining the day after. How will you stand before yourself, before your loved ones, before your craft? If the answer is, I lose peace, credit, and bond, the price is too high. Dignity is not vanity or haughtiness. It is respect for your inner governing center, what the Stoics called the hegemonikon, the room from which you choose. If you turn that room into a nightclub of rage, the next day you will find broken bottles, broken promises, and furniture out of place. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best defense is to be whole, consistent, and simple in what you say and do. The outburst makes you fickle. Today you affirm one thing, tomorrow its opposite. The next day you apologize for the way you said it. On that slope, your word loses density. Think of a common scene. In a meeting you are interrupted and you feel the blow in your throat. Exploding gives the false satisfaction of planting your flag, but what do you lose? perhaps the chance to persuade, to set a process, to preserve the silent respect of someone who saw you as a reference. If instead you firmly ask for your turn and return to the point, you sustain both the cause and your name. Epictetus would invite you to measure consequences in the medium term. Impulse measures seconds, reason measures weeks. Your dignity is also your reputation as a caretaker of others. At home, the outburst frightens more than it orders. Children obey out of fear, not understanding. Your partner learns to avoid, not to dialogue. A climate of tiptoes sets in. Dignity asks for another path, clear limits, sober tone, pauses to avoid wounding, prompt repair if you fail. Nothing noble is born of haste, said Seneca. Your home needs nobility, not vertigo. Every pause you choose plants an invisible column that holds up the common roof. In the digital world, the question of dignity is urgent. A thread of public anger leaves traces that cannot be erased. Today, it feels like catharsis. Tomorrow, it's a screenshot in a job interview. What does your dignity lose if you explode online? It loses context, nuance, and allies who prefer to work with those who solve without setting fires. Marcus Aurelius urged preferring what endures. Online, what endures are your words. The moment that birthed them evaporates. Let your words, when read out of context, still appear sober. To answer this question well, it helps to inventory past losses. Write down 3 times you exploded and what you lost. Time, sleep, projects, trust, bonds. Not to punish yourself, but to see the real price. The Stoics practiced this moral accounting not out of obsession, but out of hygiene. Seeing the bill cuts the romance with the explosion. Epictetus reminded, things are worth what you pay for them. Paying with your dignity is almost always too expensive. Do not confuse dignity with muteness. Sometimes defending it requires speaking clearly and strongly. The difference lies in the origin. Shouting is born of impulse and seeks to discharge. Firmness is born of reason and seeks to order. Rehearse phrases that guard your name while setting limits. I don't accept that tone. Let's resume tomorrow. That's not accurate. I have data. This is as far as I go today. You'll notice your voice lowers, your body organizes, the conversation shifts in altitude. That composure is part of your dignity. Another invisible loss of the outburst is clarity. Anger narrows the field of vision, selects confirming data, and erases what could moderate it. At the end, you think you saw everything, but you only looked at a corner. Marcus Aurelius asked himself to look from above to restore proportion. Practice that aerial view. What is left out? What does the other want? What do you want? What concrete result is worth seeking? With those questions, your words regain direction. Without them, you only charge. The body can help you guard your name. In the minute before, lower your chin, release your jaw, plant your feet firmly, and exhale longer than you inhale. The long exhale activates the brake. Repeat silently an anchor phrase: facts, tone, aim, or clear, brief, fair. This protocol reminds you that your goal is not to win theatre, but to preserve your name and resolve the matter. Epictetus would call this care of the self, a gentle vigilance that accompanies you like a guardian. And if you already exploded, dignity is not lost forever. It is repaired with 3 gestures: recognition, apology, and amendment. Recognition: I overdid it. I shouldn't have spoken like that. Apology: I'm sorry. I hurt you. Amendment: I will do X to avoid repeating it. Seneca distrusted theatrical apologies. He preferred sober correction. Promise less and change more. At first, pride resists. Later, you will be grateful to sleep without knots. That peace is also dignity. In teams, make this question a habit. Before sending a hot email, what does my credibility lose if I send it this way? Before responding in public, what does my leadership lose if I let myself be dragged in? Reliable leaders are not those who never get angry. They are those who don't hand over the wheel. Marcus Aurelius, who led an empire, wrote to remind himself of smallness and finitude. That awareness made him less vulnerable to flattery and provocation. You benefit from the same antidote. Remember who you are, what you're here for, what you want to preserve. For beginners, a nightly exercise. Review 3 scenes of the day. In the first, you held back and guarded your name. Celebrate. In the second, you overdid it. Repair tomorrow. In the third, you remain undecided. Write a phrase for next time. This inventory takes 5 minutes and strengthens the muscle of dignity. That muscle supports other virtues: prudence, justice, courage, temperance. All gain when your word carries weight. Dignity is also protected by choosing battles. Ask yourself if this matter deserves your emotional signature. Some conflicts are gym, others quicksand. If it's gym, train. Set a limit, learn, grow. If it's sand, step away. It swallows and doesn't teach. Epictetus would divide between what depends on you and what doesn't. Work on the first, release the second. Your name doesn't have to be on every front. Choosing where to stand is a way to honor yourself, an image to accompany you. Think of a glass, clear, useful, fragile if it falls. Dignity is that glass, transparent when clean, strong when well held, hard to repair if thrown to the ground in an outburst. It's not about living in fear of breaking it, but about holding it with both hands when the road gets rocky. 2 hands, silence at the start and just words after. With that, you'll arrive with the glass whole at the end of the day. Return to the question that opens this key and use it as a safety lock. What does my dignity lose if I explode? If the answer is peace, credit, bond, purpose, hold your voice a few minutes and choose better. If the answer is, I defend what matters with the right tone, speak. Don't let fear rob you of clarity, nor anger rob you of your name. Marcus Aurelius wished that in us there might be simplicity, goodness, purity, and serenity. That serenity is not a gift, it is a practice. Start with this question and sustain it. Your voice will thank you. 7th Stoic key: turn offense into training. Provocation comes like a stone hurled at your chest, and the immediate reaction is to throw it back harder. But if you pause for a moment and change the lens, that stone stops being a weapon and becomes a weight. Epictetus would explain it simply: what others do is not up to you. What you do with it is. Calling an offense training doesn't mean denying the harm or going blind to injustice. It means reclaiming the helm. When someone interrupts you, belittles you, or uses irony to watch you burn, you can say inwardly, without theatrics, "This is my practice today." That small phrase silently turns the scene. You are no longer a defenseless target. You are a learner with method. You are no longer in the ring to entertain anyone. You are in the gym of character, where every repetition has meaning. For this key to work in real life, you must name exactly what happened and cool the froth that exaggerates everything. Don't say, "They always disrespect me." Describe, "I was interrupted 3 times without eye contact. They answered with sarcasm when I asked for data. They laughed while I explained an important point." The concrete cools the blood and lets you see where to train. Then define the aim. Do you want to punish or to order? Punishment gives brief pleasure and a long bill. Ordering, on the other hand, means choosing an action that improves the scene, asking for the floor and holding it, requesting facts, proposing a clear process, moving the topic to a more sober space, setting a boundary without humiliating. Seneca said that anger loves shortcuts. Training chooses paths that seem slower but lead better. Your body knows where to start. When the spark rises, lower your chin a millimeter, release your tongue from the palate, let your shoulders drop, and lengthen the exhale. That small protocol lowers the fire by 1 degree. 1 degree is enough not to utter the phrase that would haunt you all day. Then bring your gaze to the other's eyes or to a fixed point in the room. Locating yourself physically is a simple way to remind the mind it is not in a war, but in a conversation that can be difficult and yet governable. Marcus Aurelius recommended looking at everything as it is, not as imagination paints it. That clean look is the first weight you lift. If you ask what exactly is trained, the answer is clear: temperance to dose, prudence to choose the moment, and justice not to forget the end. You train when you ask to finish a thought without raising your voice, when you turn sarcasm into a question about criteria, when you propose a pause to prevent the room from turning into theatre, when you transform mockery into an explicit agreement about tone. You train even when you decide to withdraw from a scene whose only purpose is to see you lose control. The best revenge is not to resemble them, Marcus Aurelius wrote. Stepping aside calmly may be the most demanding set of the day. At home, turning offense into training means breaking old choreographies. If you are hurt, name the impact without accusing and ask for a moment to think. If you hurt, acknowledge it without detours and offer a concrete amendment. That back and forth creates a new climate. The home stops being a minefield and becomes a workshop. The workshop allows error but demands correction. It doesn't feed on pride but on method. Epictetus insisted that moral progress doesn't come from speeches but from small, steady exercises. The family, more than any other place, is the gym where the muscle of character tires and strengthens for real. At work, this key saves projects. Faced with provocation, redirect the scene to facts. Ask for goals, deadlines, and decision criteria. Document the agreement. Move thorny matters from chat to a short meeting with minutes. The practice may seem cold, but it protects the best of you, your capacity to serve the common good without handing your peace over to others' tempers. Seneca warned that whoever gets angry surrenders. Here, you decide not to surrender. If mockery persists, set a boundary soberly. I don't accept that tone. If you agree, we can resume tomorrow. That gesture neither humiliates nor is humiliated. It protects the standard. In the digital realm, training starts with not responding with hot fingers. Write the reply impulse dictates and leave it unsent. Walk for 2 minutes, return, remove the adjectives and leave the facts. Replace accusation with a question. Look for the useful point. Offer a way out. 3 rounds of pruning are worth an hour of peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself to order his spirit. You can turn the draft into a small meditation. What remains after the froth is what matters. There will be offenses that truly hurt and demand firmness. Turning offense into training doesn't mean turning the other cheek as a moralistic victory. It means using the energy that hurts to act better. If there was abuse, act methodically, seek support, report if necessary. Training, then, is sober courage, not mute endurance. Epictetus would call this doing what depends on you, with rectitude, without becoming a prisoner of hatred. Hatred chains the offender to the center of your life. Just action removes that place. It is also useful to train before offense appears. Upon waking, anticipate frictions, as Marcus did. Today I will meet someone impatient, someone who won't greet, someone who interrupts. Rehearsing the possibility reduces surprise and gives you margin. At night, review 2 moments, one where you turned the stone into a weight and one where you threw it back. Be grateful for the first, learn from the second, and write an anchor phrase for tomorrow. That fine accounting leaves a mark on the nervous system. At first, it is effort. Later, it comes naturally. There will be days you fail. Stumbling does not invalidate practice. It invites it to mature. Ask forgiveness if you hurt. Repair what you can. Return to your method. Seneca distrusted sterile guilt. He preferred sober correction. Progress is not never getting angry. Progress is recognizing earlier, igniting less, returning faster to center. The center, for the Stoic, is that inner room, the hegemonikon, where no one can command you unless you grant permission. Training is learning to find the door even when there is noise outside. Picture a week with this key in action. 3 scenes that once ended in a ring now end in agreements. Two sparks that once became fire, now extinguish with a pause. One mockery that once hurt for days, now teaches something about your boundary. Perhaps no one applauds, but the home breathes better, the team trusts more, and you rest without endless ruminations. That rest is the least flashy and most valuable trophy of training. You look at it in silence and think, with Marcus, it is enough to have acted in accord with reason. Then you understand that the offense turned into a weight, stopped commanding, and began serving. Eighth Stoic key, memento mori in fury. Memento mori means, remember that you will die. Said without adornment, it sounds harsh. Practiced with intelligence, it is medicine against disproportion. Fury magnifies the small, turns a clumsy gesture into tragedy, and a misunderstanding into an existential offense. Bringing finitude into the scene shrinks what does not deserve your soul and enlarges what does. Marcus Aurelius, writing in Nights of Plague and War, reminded himself of the ephemerality of almost everything. Soon I will be no one, and these trifles will not matter. This awareness does not invite cynicism. It invites choosing better where to place the flame. Imagine a stranger's ironic comment trying to claim your nerve. Ask yourself calmly, if today were my last day, would I want to give it away to this thread? Not to withdraw always, but to set measure. Perhaps you discover it is not worth responding. Perhaps you choose to ask for facts. Perhaps you postpone until your mood clears. Memento mori does not make you mute. It grants you perspective. Epictetus would phrase it his way. Adjust your expectation to the nature of things. Human nature includes clumsiness. Yours includes the power to choose what to do with it. When injustice is real, the remembrance of death also makes you braver. What will weigh more at the end, having shouted louder or having upheld a boundary that protected someone vulnerable? Seneca warned against consuming time in matters that only feed pride. Death, the inevitable teacher, forces you to administer your hours as scarce wealth. If you are going to spend fire, spend it on what builds. If you are going to keep silent, let it be to protect a bond. If you are going to speak, let it be to serve the truth with a tone you can recall without shame. For beginners, this idea needs a clear bridge. Remembering death is not about being scared. It is about opening the window to let air in. Count 4 pulses at your wrist and repeat inwardly a short phrase, "Life is short, guard your voice." That gesture brings light back into the room. Exaggeration loses oxygen, pride steps down a rung, and a more honest question appears. What do I want to remain after this scene? Marcus Aurelius said the best defense is to be. To be here means to reach the end of the day, able to look at yourself without turning away. In the digital sphere, memento mori acts as a seatbelt. What you write today may be read out of context tomorrow. If your trace were to be your last, would you recognize yourself in it? That question halts the clever attack that burns bridges and leaves the sober response that crosses them. Choosing this sobriety does not lessen your personality. It restores your esteem before yourself. Seneca wrote that, "Nothing belongs to us more than time. Guard it as you guard the name that signs your words." At home, this key softens the pride that turns crumbs into mountains. The person who irritates you today is not eternal, and neither are you. Do not let irony ruin an entire evening. If it matters, talk tomorrow with firm tenderness. If not, let it pass and embrace. That embrace, multiplied, becomes a brick in shared memory. When someone is gone, you will not wish you had shouted less. You will wish you had looked more. Memento mori teaches you to look while there is still time. There are days when anger wears the mask of absolute clarity. You feel that seeing faster is seeing better, but haste is rarely a teacher of justice. The memory of finitude invites you to lose a minute to gain a more dignified life. That minute is breath and method. Write on paper what happened, what hurt, what you want to achieve, what minimal phrase might serve. With that map, your voice arrives with weight, not with noise. Epictetus would say you chose to assent to a truer impression. Death is not only a limit, it is also a guide. If your life were to end soon, what habits would you correct first? Likely the habit of fighting over everything and letting the small dictate your pulse. Prefer what endures means caring for virtues that build a biography. Patience, clarity, temperance, justice. They are not obtained in shouts, they are obtained in discreet decisions. Every time you choose not to ignite a useless fire, you protect that silent building we call character. Memento mori even helps in a conflict that truly deserves your voice. It frees you from humiliation as a tool. You know no one will remember cruel jokes, they will remember your composure. You know no one will miss a clever outburst, they will be grateful for a fair proposal. Do the work and move on, Marcus wrote. The work leaves a trace, the spectacle leaves fatigue. Choosing work over spectacle is a way of honoring the brevity of your days. At the end of the day, devote a minute to this examination. Review 2 scenes where the blood rose. Ask yourself if you used your time as if it were finite. If not, imagine the version you would have liked to embody. Rehearse it quietly. This rehearsal is not theatrics, it is muscle memory for next time. Next time always comes, and when it comes, counting to 4 will steady the wave just enough so that your mouth does not betray you. Do not fear becoming cold. Memento mori does not chill the heart, it gives it contour. Wood without a frame burns or rots, with a frame it supports. Remembering that everything ends does not make you indifferent, it makes you selective. Selection is not lack of love, it is love that knows where to be spent and where to be reserved. Seneca called this saving soul. Save for what matters, not for what passes. Picture yourself a month from now and finding fewer explosions, fewer threads that leave you empty, fewer arguments that soil memory. Instead, you will see days with shape, sober conversations, silences that protect, decisions that leave no hangover. No one will make you a statue, nor do you seek one. You will seek to sleep in peace and wake with desire. Marcus Aurelius would call that enough. And enough, in times of stridency, is a victory. 9th Stoic key: redirect energy toward useful action. Anger is energy. If you do not channel it, it drags you. If you channel it, it drives you. Redirecting is not denying what you feel, it is transforming the impulse into work. Imagine an overflowing river that ruins harvests and sweeps away houses. That same flow, if channeled, powers turbines, irrigates fields, and gives life. Your task is to build inner dams and canals so that what burns you today sustains you tomorrow. Epictetus would translate it into his central key: guard what depends on you. What depends on you is the destiny of that energy, damage that wounds or work that builds. The first channel is the body. Anger tightens muscles, speeds up the heart, shortens the breath. Move your body with intention to release the tension without hurting anyone. Walk briskly, climb stairs, stretch your back, sweep with focus, wash with cold water, do a short set of exercises. It is not about escaping the problem, it is about creating a state where reason returns to command. Marcus Aurelius insisted on treating the body as a servant of the soul, not as a tyrant. When the body steadies, the mind stops demanding tribute in shouts. The second channel is the written word. If you feel your mouth will say something you regret, give the voice to your hand. Pour your anger onto paper no one will read. Let hyperboles, judgments, cruel jokes come out, all that you do not want to place in the world. Then breathe and write the sober version you would actually send. The first purge cleans the pipe, the second builds the bridge. Marcus Aurelius turned his nights into a notebook of exercises, his meditations, to discipline the spirit. You can replicate that humble craft. Paper, unlike another's ear, is not wounded, and unlike the algorithm, it does not devour you. Useful action is also precision. Anger loves assumptions. Usefulness loves data. Ask for facts, criteria, limits. What exactly do you expect? On what timeline? With what resources? How will we know it is resolved? This finished grammar drains swamps. Seneca affirmed that many disputes dissolve when terms are defined. By writing clearly, noise falls and the possibility of agreement rises. Your energy stops circling around intentions and is invested in decisions. Another effective channel is immediate service. When the ego demands war, give it noble work. Cook a meal, help someone with a task, teach something you know, call someone who is alone, donate an hour to a concrete cause, tidy a shared space. It may seem small, its effect is profound. Your attention shifts to what you can actually improve here and now. Anger feeds on egocentric rumination. Service starves it. It does not deny the wound, but it surrounds it with meaning. At work, turn frustration into real improvement. Document the process that frustrates you. Design a pilot change. Propose it with metrics. Accept feedback. Adjust and remeasure. Redirecting means your discomfort inaugurates new standards instead of aggressive threads. When a meeting escalates, volunteer to write the minutes. Separate topics. Set next actions. The energy that once burned now lights. Leadership seen this way is not glitter or control. It is engineering channels for the common good. At home, redirect toward care. If disorder irritates you, tidy an area and propose a simple, visible, kind rule. If the load weighs, drop the complaint and agree on distribution with times and responsibilities. If a phrase hurt you, express the impact and what you need without theater. This logistics of affection may seem dry, but it is substance. It prevents wounds and builds trust. Mature love does not always burn, it sustains, and sustaining requires method. Be careful not to confuse venting with acting. A thread of fury online feels like movement, but produces nothing but hangover and screenshots. Ask yourself before posting, does this bring a solution closer, or does it only relieve me for a minute? If it only relieves, choose another channel, movement, writing, private conversation. If it brings a solution closer, let it be with facts, courtesy, and a clear end. Marcus Aurelius asked that every act take the form of a work. Work leaves something better than before. Discharge leaves fatigue and noise. Sometimes redirecting requires outside help. Not everything is solved with willpower and notebooks. If the wound is deep or your temperament overflows often, seek therapy, mediation, or guidance. The humility of asking for help is a strength that preserves your loved ones and your craft. Epictetus warned against believing we are enough for everything. No one learns an art solely from themselves. The art of governing force is no exception. Reserve a daily block for a project that matters to you and does not depend on the world's mood. Write 2 paragraphs of a book, practice an instrument, learn a tool, cultivate a plant, repair something simple. That ritual creates a stable channel through which the day's energy flows even in storms. Reaching the end, tired with something small finished, rests more than arriving exasperated with everything half broken. Seneca found joy in study and completed works. It is not erudition, it is hygiene of the spirit. Body and word help each other. Before a difficult conversation, breathe and write 3 possible phrases. 1 to ask for clarity, 1 to set a boundary, 1 to propose a way out. Practice them quietly. When the moment comes, you will not improvise from the fire, you will act from the protocol. Reckless improvisation pleases pride, sober protocol serves the goal. That service is the axis shift we seek, from me against the world to me with method for the good. If you make a mistake and your mouth wounds, redirect even the repair. Acknowledge, ask forgiveness briefly, and propose a specific amendment. Promising never again is smoke. Promising next time we'll raise this in voice, not chat, is engineering. Marcus Aurelius celebrated being able to correct on the spot. That promptness is not false pride, it is a roadmap. Repeated, it builds reputation of one who channels their strength toward what matters. Picture the difference in a few weeks. Where once there were remnants of arguments, now there are minutes, agreements, and small works. Where once your chest hurt, now it breathes because the body moved and the mind built. Where once you needed applause to believe you had done well, now it is enough to look at the full channel. The river did not stop being river, it stopped devastating. And when rains come, you will have dams. That is the promise of this key. Your energy will no longer be an excuse to hurt or gasoline for fires. It will be building material. Marcus Aurelius, with his luminous sobriety, would say it without noise. Do what lies before you, with rectitude. Do it with the strength that burned you yesterday. Today it can be your engine. 10th Stoic key, review the battle at nightfall. At nightfall, when the house finally lowers its volume and the world seems to retreat to its own room, the most silent and fertile work of the day begins, looking inward and reviewing the battle, not to judge yourself harshly, but to recover governance. The Stoics practice this habit as one who cleans his tools before storing them. Seneca confessed that, when going to bed, he asked himself what he had done well, what he had done poorly, and what he needed to correct. He was not seeking culprits, he was seeking clarity. That clarity is medicine for anger, because it allows you to separate facts from noise, see where the spark was lit and how you responded, and prepare with sobriety for tomorrow's gesture. Think of the night as a teacher with a serene voice. It invites you to sit down, turn off screens, light a sufficient lamp, drink water, and breathe twice as slowly as usual. Then open a notebook. Write without theatre what happened, one sentence, not a novel. At 11 I was interrupted and I raised my voice. In the afternoon I replied to an email harshly. At home I said I was fine when I wasn't. By putting it into sober words, the scene returns to its size. Equally useful is to write down where you prevailed. I waited before responding and asked for facts. I set a boundary without hurting. I did not let myself be dragged by haste. That balance is not vanity, it is training. Recognize your progress to consolidate it, and your stumbles to correct them. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself to remember that what matters is not what others do, but what you do with what others do. The night returns that focus to you. Ask yourself calmly, what impression did I accept without checking? What story did I tell myself that inflamed my spirit? What would have happened if I had remained silent half a minute longer? What fruit did my words leave? These questions do not wound, they open. By practicing them, you will begin to notice patterns. Perhaps you will discover that interruption sets you off, or injustice or disorder. To see it is already to have levers. With levers you can move tomorrow a conversation that today seemed immovable. The nightly review is not an interrogation, it is care. Begin with the body. Where did you feel the anger? In the jaw, in the stomach, in the hands? Those signals will be your early alarm tomorrow. Then look at the language. What words did you use when you gave in? Was there irony, labeling, accusations without facts? Write them down to recognize them when they appear. Then look at the fruits. Did your response bring a solution closer, or did it only relieve you for a minute? Anger relieves and breaks. Temperance builds without leaving a hangover. If you broke today, prepare the repair for tomorrow. A brief apology, a clearer limit, a better proposal. Repair, when born from clarity, honors your name more than 1,000 justifications. Epictetus insisted on training assent, learning not to believe immediately what the mind says when it hurts. The night is the classroom. There, with less noise, you can rewrite the scene. Where before you wrote, "They humiliated me," try, "I felt humiliated when I was interrupted. Tomorrow I will ask for my turn and finish my thought." Where you said, "It's always the same," change it to, "It happened today. I'll see if there is a pattern." That nuance returns freedom. It does not deny the impact, but it stops chaining you to it. And if you detect that the matter is serious, that there is abuse or manipulation, the night gives you a map without smoke. Document, seek support, choose the right channel. Nightly lucidity does not lull you to sleep, it arms you within. It is wise to ritualize this moment so that it does not depend on whim. Choose an approximate time, a discrete corner, a lamp, a notebook used only for this task. Write 3 or 4 lines, no more is needed. What matters is regularity, not eloquence. Seneca warned that today's discipline is tomorrow's rest. Dedicate 3 minutes to ordering the day, and you will gain hours of clean sleep. The mind, when it knows there will be review, behaves better during the day. It remembers it will have to give account to your own conscience and avoids shortcuts. There will be nights of brutal fatigue. It's all right. Review just one moment. Give thanks for just one minimal victory. You kept silent when provoked. You breathed before typing. You asked for clarity instead of assuming. Those small fidelities are bricks. With them, without noise, you build a house. Marcus Aurelius said it another way. Do what is before you with rectitude. That rectitude is not grandiose. It is precise. It shows in discreet gestures that, added together, change the music of your biography. Use the night to reconcile with yourself. If you overdid it, do not flog yourself with theatrical guilt. Acknowledge it, decide on a concrete amendment, and sleep. Sleeping is a moral act when you have put in order what depends on you. Bitter wakefulness corrects nothing. Sober repair does. Write a sentence for tomorrow. I will talk to X and say Y in this way. Prepare an alternative for the spark that burned you today. Foresight is already half a remedy. You can also use the time for gratitude. Gratitude does not deny the struggle, it frames it. Thank the one who listened to you, the one who stopped you, the one who showed you an angle. Thank even the provocation that trained you. The best revenge is not to resemble them. Marcus wrote, thanks to that phrase, today you chose better. Gratitude softens the hard edges of the day and leaves space for tenderness, that silent virtue that makes the world habitable. If you live with others, sometimes share a gentle version of this review. Without accusations or public balance sheets, just a question at the table. What did we do better today to take care of each other? What will we do differently tomorrow? That sober conversation creates culture. The home stops measuring everything by volume and starts measuring by dignity. The same in teams. 5 final minutes to note lessons and next steps. You do not need big speeches. You need continuity. Finally, remember that the night is not a tribunal. It is a workshop. In the tribunal, error condemns you. In the workshop, error teaches you. Arriving at bed with this attitude changes your rest. Close your eyes with a brief phrase. Today I practiced. Tomorrow I will try again. Not all heat is fire. The mind falls asleep in peace when guided by just words, and when you wake, you will have a humble and powerful plan, a second of breathing, a pause of silence, a question for facts, a limit stated without harm. Thus, day by day, the battle stops being perpetual war and becomes a craft. Your voice regains weight, your home breathes better, your work recognizes you, and you look at yourself with more respect. That is the promise of nightly review, that no defeat is left without a lesson and no victory without gratitude. With that method, anger loses its throne and reason sits again on its own. Before turning off the light, leave a small gesture ready for dawn, the cup clean, the notebook open, a phrase on the nightstand reminding you who you want to be when the first friction appears. The nightly review does not end in the notebook, it ends the following morning. There you will see that this practice is not theory. Your first yes will be more conscious, your first no more serene, and your first silence more fruitful. That continuity is what, over time, turns calm into habit, and dignity into a presence that does not need to raise its voice. The government of your fire. There is a freedom that begins in the tongue and ends in the heart, deciding what you do with the fire that lives within you. If you have lived for years with the feeling that words slip out of you like sparks towards someone else's gasoline, this episode wanted to offer you another scene, one where fire warms, not burns, illuminates, not blinds, accompanies, not destroys. You have gone through 10 keys that do not promise magic or sainthood, but a practicable method. Catching the spark, withdrawing consent, making silence your first response, remembering that anger makes you a slave, seeing the offender as ignorant and not as an enemy, guarding your dignity before exploding, turning offense into training, bringing memento mori to the table, redirecting energy to useful action, and closing the day with an honest review. All of these are not slogans. They are habits that return you to self-government. And when you govern, the word comes back home. I do not want you to think of calm as the absence of life. The calm we are speaking of beats. It has blood. It breathes. It can hurt and still decide. It can be indignant and still hold a tone that does not wound. Calm does not extinguish your strength. It concentrates it. Seneca intuited this when he said that the first remedy against anger is to defer it, that deferral is not cowardice, it is love for the outcome you want to protect. Marcus Aurelius sealed it with his sobriety: prefer what endures. What endures is not the applause of the outburst, nor the sharp pleasure of winning a duel, but the silent prestige of one who chooses well when no one is measuring. Epictetus, with his school of exercises, put our feet back on the ground, learn to assent only to what is true, to say no to what enslaves you, to remember that peace is not delivered to you by the world. You give it to yourself when you govern your choices. Imagine a tomorrow with these habits alive in your agenda. You wake up and before stepping into the noise, you honor a minute of silence, just a sip of water and a written line. Today, I want my word to become work. At work, when someone raises their tone, you ask for your turn, bring facts, propose a process. When a message pinches you, you write a draft and let it breathe. When pride pushes you into a thread, you remember that your name also writes. At home, when a joke hurts, you state the impact and ask for another way. When the discussion heats up, you propose a pause. When tenderness is scarce, you make a small gesture to summon it. They are not grand feats. They are discrete decisions that, repeated, draw a new map of your life. You may fear becoming too contained, as if containment were a brake on your authenticity. Do not confuse containment with a mask. The mask fakes. Containment orders. Authenticity that hurts everyone is not virtue, it is negligence. Authenticity that takes responsibility for its effect is character. That is why we speak of government. Government of gestures, of words, of timing. Government of yourself, not of others. The world will continue with its roughness, its traffic, its easy irony, but you will have stopped obeying every push. And that, though it seems little, is a domestic revolution. In that revolution fits a sober joy, going to bed knowing that, though it was not a perfect day, there were fewer remains to sweep and more work to uphold. Perhaps you wonder if it is worth subscribing to this space, if a weekly reminder can make a difference in a life full of urgencies. I answer with the humility of the concrete. Here you will receive brief practices, guided meditations, and scripts of phrases that fit into real days. We do not promise that you will never get angry again. We promise that you will have methods at hand not to give away your name every time you do. Subscribing is not a gesture of consumption. It is a commitment with yourself to return again and again to the craft of temperance. When you come home tired and pride asks for a stage, there will be a page reminding you facts, tone, and purpose. When the screen provokes you to fight, there will be an exercise waiting to postpone and ask. When your heart asks for justice, you will have a framework to let the boundary come out firm and without venom. Not subscribing means you will keep having to invent it all on the fly, alone against very trained inertias. You can, of course, but you don't have to do it without company. This space wants to be like that bench in the plaza that waits for you each week at the same time. You sit, loosen your shoulders, look at what happened, take an idea, rehearse it, get up, and continue. Little noise, much constancy. What we propose is not spectacular, it is useful. If each episode helps you save one fight, repair one word, ease one agreement, sleep with fewer knots, it will have been worth it. There is something profoundly human in regaining government over your voice, because the voice is a bridge. With it we climb or push down. With it we open doors or shut them. By learning to control anger before speaking, you do not become less you, you become more you, because you choose which part of you takes the word. The part you want to see grow, the prudence that evaluates, the justice that protects, the fortitude that sustains, the temperance that measures. The old masters knew it. The best defense is to be at the height of what you expect from yourself, even if it hurts inside to renounce the discharge. That renunciation is a form of love for your future, for your ties, for your craft, for your rest. If you decide to stay, I invite you to an immediate practice. Tonight, before sleeping, write 3 lines: where you flared, where you cared, what you will do differently tomorrow. Tomorrow, at waking, dedicate 1 minute to breathing, another to silence, and another to intention. Then keep in your pocket an anchor phrase for the day. Facts, tone, and purpose, or if you prefer, clear, brief, just. When the blood rises, touch them with your tongue, as one touches a tooth with the tip of a finger, to remember they are there. They are not spells, they are reminders. They give you 1 second of advantage. Many times that second changes everything. I also want to speak to that part of you that thinks it is already too late, that you have already broken too much, already said what you should not, already been trapped by your character. It is not too late. Growing is not erasing history, it is changing the course of its rivers. Sometimes 10 days of a small practice are enough for the environment to notice a new music, not because you become perfect, but because you begin to be predictable in the best way. You pause before responding, you choose sober channels, you correct when you fail, you repair without theatrics. That beautiful predictability gives back to those who love you and work with you the confidence that they can count on you, even on rough days. And that confidence is worth more than being right in every discussion. On this path there will be relapses. You will write too much again, raise your voice again, overact a gesture again. When it happens, do not abandon yourself to drama. Return to practice. Acknowledge, apologize, repair, resume. The best revenge is not to resemble them, we repeat with Marcus. We could add, the best victory is not to obey the impulse that chains you. Epictetus would smile if he saw you correcting in the 3rd minute what once took you 3 days. Seneca would tell you that you are freer today than yesterday, and that every advance that lets you sleep calmly is a serious good. For us, it will be enough to accompany you in that rhythm, episode by episode, without hurry and without pause. If this episode gave you language to name your anger without disguising it, if it offered you method to contain it without repressing yourself and paths to turn it into work, stay close. Subscribe now and receive, each week, a simple guide to practicing the government of your fire in real scenarios. Work, home, screen, street. I do not promise fireworks. I promise lamps lit at the right hour. I do not promise applause. I promise tools. I do not promise the world will turn kind. I promise you will be more master of your response. That is the benefit. Fewer unnecessary fires, more conversations with shape, more nights of clean rest, more mornings with purpose. If that serves you, you will find us here. And if today you decide not to subscribe, still take one certainty with you. The government of your fire is in your hand. No one can take that key away from you. No one can force you to speak from the wound when you can speak from reason. No one can impose on your voice a tone you do not choose. Force deprived of method becomes violence. Force governed becomes service. Your life, starting tonight, can begin to change by a centimeter. 1 second of pause, 1 question for facts, 1 clean boundary, 1 review before closing your eyes. When you look back in a few weeks, you will notice that there is not so much to sweep, and that what remains has the shape of work. That is enough to continue. That is enough to believe the effort is worth it. Thank you for being here. This space is designed so that you can return whenever you need and find the same standard, clarity, method, respect. If you join, I will write to you each week as Marcus wrote to himself, to remember what you already know, to remind you of what serves you, to help your voice reach where you want it to reach. Calm is not a gift reserved for a few. It is a craft learned with simple tools and will. Here are the tools, the will you bring. When the next friction knocks at your door, remember this table. Catch the spark, choose silence, order the facts, and then speak if needed. Let your word be work. Your voice is essential here. Every reflection strengthens and elevates our community, reflecting the true value of each individual and contributing to our shared Stoic identity. The reflection that receives the most support will be set as the standard of this community of Stoic minds, a community that does not flee from pain but walks through it with courage, with wisdom, with honor. We will see each other in our next gathering at Stoicism for Winners, where we will continue exploring the riches of Stoic wisdom applied to modern life. Now, take the opportunity to deepen your Stoic practice with new recommended podcast sessions. Follow us so you don't miss any reflection that could help you at just the moment when everything feels overwhelming. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we publish episodes designed to accompany you when life feels heavy, when it's hard to stay calm, when you need a word to remind you who you are. Not following us is to risk missing exactly that lesson that could bring back the peace you have been seeking. Until we meet again, remember, you are the sole owner of your perception, the creator of your peace, and the warrior of your own battle. This is the legacy of Stoicism, the art of being invincible.